get into some of the feelings, and we're going to get into some real talk here for a sec, Jake.
Oh, man.
Brandon Staley. I think
he was on my list.
Massive redemption.
No surprise there.
Massive redemption season. And this is no knock on Brandon Staley. This is not saying anything negatively in terms of how he performed, in terms of him as a coach. Doesn't have to do with that, really. The aura around, pun intended, Brandon Staley, since he came to the Chargers, like the second he was hired, was, this brainchild. He's someone who is kind of transcending the defensive scheme, if you will, for the NFL. And bluntly, that has not been seen translated onto the field. But with that, you saw year one, Brandon Staley, just let it rip. Fourth and Staley was on a t-shirt being sold everywhere. You saw everyone around the NFL, pundits, critics, all kind of talking about this new age and kind of changing the math, if you will, with this fourth down and aggressive play calling and changing the culture of this team. And there was a ton of positive that came from year one. And you and I noted that at length, how different that year was versus the years prior under the previous regime. Then, of course, the Week 18 debacle happened against the Raiders. They missed the playoffs. Season ends on kind of a low note. Last year, you saw tons of catastrophes happen, all the injuries, all of the extenuating circumstances, the offensive play calling not doing great. You saw Justin Herbert down for a while and kind of ailing throughout the season. And you saw Brandon Staley then kind of have to reel it in, seemingly, in terms of the aggressiveness and that fourth down and the decision-making and all that. And it probably, how could it not get to him? When you see kind of how things ended in Jacksonville, and you see how intense it was just for them to get to the playoffs. Remember how dire it looked there for a while before they reeled off those wins at the end? Playoffs weren't even being talked about. And so he had that. But, that takes its toll. And then last year, we heard Eric Smith talk about it. They just didn't reach their full potential last year. Now there's all these question marks around Brandon Staley. And maybe he was going to get fired in the offseason. And should he be the coach this season? And what he needs to do to kind of put those question marks to rest. And is he the right coach for Justin Herbert? Should they get an offensive guy, i.e. Kellen Moore? Is he already foot in the door? How should Brandon Staley be acting as a coach this year? Did he learn his lessons? Is he going to handle injuries the same way? Is he going to be more aggressive this year? So many things. Year 3, redemption season for Brandon Staley. And I see this as you know what? F it. If I'm going to go down, I'm going down swinging, and I'm going down with my best punches. Best punches. Justin Herbert, Derwin James, Rashawn Slater. The guys that you need to rely on, the ones who are the cornerstone of your team, that's how I'm going to go down. If I'm going to go down slinging it 50 yards down the field and it gets picked off, I did what I thought was best for my team. I think we're going to see a more fun Los Angeles Chargers offense than we have seen in arguably a decade this season. I'm calling it now.
See, this is arguably, maybe in some people's eyes, not arguably, the hottest seat out of anybody that we're talking about here in terms of redemption goes, because of the things that go along with it. Dan, there was so much talk about Brandon Staley after that Jacksonville game, and I know we don't like talking about the Jacksonville game, but majority of coaches, after losing a game the way that the Chargers lost last year, probably would have seen a pink slip and probably would have been shown the door.
Why?
And I mean, that's you don't go out like that. If it was a close game, competitive game, and it came down to a last couple plays in the fourth quarter and you lost, I could understand that. Yeah,
quite simply, you don't lose after having a 27-0 lead with Justin Herbert as quarterback.
Right.
Period.
Because all in all, with everything that the Chargers suffered last year in terms of injuries, they showed a great resilience, especially toward the end of the season, and Brandon Staley deserves credit for that. But when your team gets 4 turnovers in the first half and is leading 27-0, you don't lose that game. I don't care what side of the ball you want to place responsibility on. You just don't lose that. So a majority of head coaching candidates probably would have been shown the door in that circumstance. Brandon Staley was not. They chose to rework the rest of their assistant coaching staff. They obviously brought on Kellen Moore. They jumped at the opportunity once the Dallas Cowboys let him go. But yeah, Dan, to your point, this is kind of, if the Chargers don't find success here under Brandon Staley, then I think he basically, this was kind of a mulligan for Brandon Staley last year. It's like, okay, look, we like what you've done when you've been here. We're going to give you another shot,
regardless of what happens.
Regardless of that, but you kind of gotta, get us to that next step. Like this is it. And it's interesting to think here that if the Chargers end up having success, and I think that Brandon Staley will grow as a head coach, this being his third year, I think it will help this offense more for the fact that the Chargers have now Kellen Moore as their offensive coordinator. So hopefully Brandon Staley has been able to compile the things that he learned as a head coach in year 1 and year 2 and put everything together in year 3. And this could go a number of different ways, because if the Chargers find success, that's great. Brandon Staley will probably be back next year. And same coaching staff, I'm not sure about that, because if they also do good, Kellen Moore might get another head coaching job elsewhere. Or,
regardless, Kellen Moore might have a different job.
Or, devil's advocate here, if the Chargers don't find success and they choose to move on from Brandon Staley, they may have a head coach waiting in the wings on their own staff. So, yeah, this one's got the most implications of anybody that we're going to have on this list, obviously, in terms of success or failure rate and what that possibly means for the direction of this team.